All right, let me send a message to our community here. It's a premium pictures for our community. Only the best for the community we love. There we go. I think that should be good. Okay, I see our stream on YouTube. I see our stream on Twitch. Let me check Twitter. Remember, we got to do sound checks too.
Working on it.
Hold on. We'll do that in a second. Let me just make sure the streams are all up to 50. Couldn't find a whole lot about the what do you call it, the internet outage from today. Like, there's a lot of text. There's not a lot of like video media, so that'll probably come out like next week. See here. Oh, someone's dying behind me. You like that calling card for the community? Oh, we are going to talk about the Judiciary Committee testimony for Strzok and Rosenstein, and we're going to actually touch on the Ray testimony as well. But we don't have any clips from Goodlat.
All right.
We do have Trey Gowdy and what's his name, Jim Jordan, though. They're kind of longer clips, but I think we break them up and kind of talk. It'll be okay. There's one clip that's like 10 minutes. We are not playing that whole thing. We're cutting that off. It'll be good. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on it. What is it? It's number 9. The reason I want to play it is because it's so fucking blatantly propaganda. It's ridiculous.
Word.
What? Oh, you're seeing the picture-in-picture for the screen share? Just click the X on it, bro. What? Hover over it. That's bizarre. Do you need to restart your Discord? All right. Let's give that a shot, and then that's what this is for.
Yo.
You got YouTube chat, I got Twitch chat.
Talking about like modding?
Yeah, just watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, baller. There we go. Yeah. That's ridiculous. So you can't stream like the Need to Know text chat? Try doing a preview on Twitch. Or would that be... No, that'd be bad. Never mind. Don't do that, because then you show your desktop. All right. Okay. Did you guys have any like anything that you want to talk about over the last week? Like, did you guys see any like news that you really liked that maybe wasn't in mainstream or whatever?
God, it was so busy. So
I've-
much shit happened.
Honestly, I've just been reading that 210 burn petition all week.
Oh no, I took
Oh,
a
have you?
mini
The one
vacation.
against
I
the
got so
Clintons?
behind.
Yep, 210 pages worth of stuff. And
Dude,
it all
Oh,
makes
wow.
sense.
going through that?
Yeah, I went through that entire thing. It makes sense. It lays the entire Russian collusion narrative out in, except the mirrored image of it, basically, in a way that just, I don't know, it was mind blowing. It was like, okay, wow, now I get it.
Nice. So that's gonna be some good shit, as far as I can tell.
Hopefully, we're expecting whatchamacallit, some answers to be filed on that pretty soon. So hopefully
Yeah,
something
it'd be
comes
kind of
from
nice
it.
for this shit to start wrapping up. It's taken all of like what 2 years to get through the judiciary system.
Yeah, tell me about it.
All right, we still got to do sound checks.
All right.
Hey, political, say something.
Yo, what's up, man? Do I sound legit or do I sound obnoxious?
Sounds good to me.
No, you sound great, dude. All right, fuck yeah. How do I sound? Are you guys listening to the stream?
Not yet.
I'm looking at the chat. I don't know, somebody in any one of the chats want to let us know if,
Well, it looks like Blonde Fin says it sounds good.
Alright, there we go. What, me?
All right.
I would hope not. Alright, so...
All right. It looks like YouTube is saying we're doing good too. Okay.
Alright, getting that last stretch in and those...
All right.
track
Last
notes.
call for bathroom. Last call for cigarettes and marijuana and all that good stuff.
Speaking of, yeah, give me one quick sec.
Got that beer you want to crack? Get that glass of water.
2 minutes.
Otherwise, you'd be peeing into the Gatorade bottle. Oh man, I got a little bit on the red hen. That kind of blew me away.
Can't even believe that shit, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? Really? Are you being
Bro, there's a lot of like news that's not hitting about it, but I mean the actual the actual stuff that's like being talked about is ridiculous. The fact that lady chased her to another restaurant is insane.
The fact that she even went there is insane.
All right. Right. Whose hat is that, Enoch?
Good to go.
I bet I could just have it made. You can totally have hats embroidered. All right, so you're good. You drain the lizard.
Oh yeah, all drained, all set, all ready to go.
Oh man, what was her name?
Penelope?
Was it Penelope?
I guess.
Penelope the lizard.
All right. Throw the splash card up, brother.
All right.
You know the one that we made for the episode? Yeah, that's the
a-
one.
Yeah, that's one.
Justice Kennedy.
Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Getting his finger pointed at. All right, well then. Howdy there, ladies
right.
and gents.
Hold on.
Not
So
yet.
what we'll do is we'll quiet down. You'll start playing the music, and then you'll start us in.
All right.
That way, there's a clear cut for you to like actually cut on when you go to edit.
Oh, of course. All right, so all silence on the Western Front, please. And howdy there, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in on this pretty decent Friday, June the 29th. We've got Breadbox, a.k.a. Solid MAGA, here with us, along with Political.
Welcome.
How you guys?
What up?
I survived. Oh, but she didn't.
Oh, thanks for coming around here with us tonight, guys, as we take you around the world with the news that we think that you need to know. So, on that note, Breadbox, take it away.
All right. First thing on our agenda, we got to check in on Korea. Last time we were here, I think, what had just happened? We just had the summit. Wasn't that right? There was just that denuclearization agreement, and then we kind of left for the whole audience hanging for a week.
Yeah, that was exactly what happened.
All right, so they haven't really denuclearized yet, and it's pretty early in the agreement, so I wouldn't even expect that until later in the process. But they have started to make like concessionary moves. So we just got a bunch of our war dead from the actual Korean War, and that's something that's kind of unprecedented.
That's a good thing. About time. It's been like, what, 60, 70 years since we've gotten those?
Yep, exactly.
About
But
time.
we got a clip for that. First one.
And into it we go.
The process has begun to return the remains of American soldiers who died during the Korean War to their loved ones, as agreed at the U.S.-North Korea summit. 2 Americans are reportedly in the North to repatriate the remains. Meanwhile, the North Korean media is calling for the United States to hold up its end of the bargain.
All right, pause that. If you're wondering why this looks so strange, this is South Korean public broadcasting.
That was strange.
Just so you're aware. All right, go ahead.
The Coalition of Families and Korean and Cold War POW MIA's President Richard Downs has stated that 2 Americans were sent to North Korea for the repatriation of the remains of American soldiers. The Americans are a forensic anthropologist and a coordinator for the handover process. In an interview with Voice of America, Downs said that a forensic anthropologist was sent to minimize the mixing of the remains. The repatriation is likely to take place sometime this week. Unlike in the past, when large sums of money had been paid for the return of the remains, no financial compensation was made this time.
Paid nothing.
It is also expected to take a considerable amount of time to identify the remains. Identification will be made through photo tracking, DNA comparison, and dental records. But it may take more than a year to identify them all, since the conditions of the remains are all different, and multiple remains are likely to have been mixed.
Okay, wait, did they really have to censor the bones? I mean, like, we know they're bones.
It's South Korea. But the reason I thought this was kind of interesting was because, like, everyone was talking about the remains, but nobody talked about the details. And this is, like, one of the only news outlets that actually says why we sent the people we sent and who we actually sent to go deal with this. I mean, I didn't know they actually had to send an anthropologist to repatriate the remains. It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have realized that either. Let's finish this one up.
Meanwhile, North Korea has been calling for the United States, through its propaganda channels, to faithfully carry out the joint declaration agreed at the June 12th U.S. DPRK summit.
Just over 2 weeks after a summit.
Right.
Wait, what all did we agree to again? Aside from denuclearization, but what did we say on our part?
That if they agree to our terms, we're going to help them out with trade deals and lifting sanctions, and then also international aid.
That
Things they can't
McDonald's.
do without. That and,
Yep.
yeah, eventually Starbucks, and I wonder if they'll get a Red Robin.
I don't know, but
Dude,
so
I love Red Robin.
fake news, not fake news, half fake news, twisting news. This is gray news, maybe. I don't know. The way they frame it is kind of shitty. The way they couch these things really is not very fun. Oh, look, Bootskis came by to say hello. Anyway, the way that they frame this stuff isn't exactly awesome, but there has been some movement in North Korea about around their nuclear power facilities. Apparently, they blew up a few old test sites. You know, we've already covered that. That was the RT reporter that was allowed to come in and report on that. They didn't have any actual inspectors that showed up to inspect the sites or anything like that. But, you know, the normal channels on news media are starting to complain because these things haven't been carried out almost a week after the agreement was signed.
Do they not think that it wouldn't take any longer?
I don't know.
Immediately, like they can just shut. I don't know. Let's go to the clip.
Just over 2 weeks after a summit between President Trump and Kim Jong-un, it appears North Korea is upgrading its only known nuclear research facility. According to monitoring group 38 North, infrastructure improvements at North Korea's nuclear plant are quickly progressing. New buildings and a radiochemical laboratory are reportedly still active on the site, but whether the reactor is in operation is unclear. Of course, earlier this month, President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un signed an agreement designed to denuclearize the Korean peninsula, leading President Trump to prematurely declare that the country is, quote, no longer a nuclear
Notice the
threat.
language, prematurely.
Joining us now is Isaac Stonefish. He is, of course, a CBSN contributor and senior fellow at the Asia Society.
He is like way too happy to be there. Like, watch his facial expressions the whole way through. Like, he never stops pushing a forced smile.
Technically, he's on TV. I mean, if you're going to be on TV for something, I mean, you got to be way too happy to be there, I would say. I
think he looks a little 420.
For real.
Let's find out.
Society's Center on U.S.-China Relations. Isaac, we weren't expecting this to happen. So what did 38 North discover, and how are they doing this? Are they using...
Look at that bald spot.
Satellite images to try to track the movement of trucks? Is that how it works?
North Korea is full of surprises. They are using satellite images, and they, I think, work with a commercial satellite provider. They buy the images, they analyze them, and they find out things that we were just not aware of.
So what about the highly publicized blowing up of Yongbyon, the main nuclear facility in North Korea? That was supposed to send a signal to the world that their days of becoming more of a nuclear power are over.
So they blew up an older facility, and they've left this one to still be in existence. And I think what happened at the summit was the two leaders agreed to a very vague statement about denuclearizing the Korean peninsula.
This is really funny
so it's
because,
unclear
like,
if this is a message that Kim Jong-un is trying to send to Trump and the United States.
Fuck the details.
In essence, hey, we still got this, we're still doing this.
Nobody reads the documents.
Or if this is something they just didn't expect the Americans to have any awareness of.
How dependable do you think this report is from 38 North? Is it possible that they maybe weren't continuing operations but simply moving things around if they're seeing activity via satellite images?
I think 38 North did a good job of saying, hey, this is what we think is likely going on. Here's what we know to the best of our information. And North Korea is such an opaque country. It's very difficult to know what is actually happening. But
I just want to point out that they have to point out where the trucks are and where the crane of an excavator shovel is.
I think we can trust the words that come from 38 North.
It'll be interesting to see how North Korea is presenting this information to its own people, because it's one thing what, we might learn through satellite images and other things, but it's another thing, they may be saying to their own people, we did blow up this one facility, but folks may know that this other facility is still intact. North Korea has broken its promises, especially in terms of its nuclear development in the past. Is this just another example of this, or do you think it's too early to really know?
I think it's too early to say that. I think it's great that you brought up North Korea's long history of not keeping the promises that they've kept. And we'll see if Trump decides to pick up on this, if Pompeo picks up on this as a sign that North Korea is being unfaithful, or if they'll just ignore it.
Is this possibly, really a slap in the face to the summit? The fact that, there was all of this pomp and circumstance about that they were going to denuclearize the peninsula and hugs and handshakes. But it looks like there's still activity happening, if this report is correct, on the sly.
I think it depends on how charitable you want to be towards Trump and Kim. A charitable view is, hey, it takes North Korea a while to make these changes. It's not an efficiently run country. It's very chaotic. It could be that the message just hasn't gone to this facility. And the satellite images, I think, were 5 days old, so it's roughly 9 days after the summit. That's a more charitable view. The uncharitable view is Trump got very little in exchange for what he gave up in the negotiation, and North Korea feels so comfortable about its relationship with Trump that they are able to do this with impunity.
With impunity, they're able to do this. They're able to upgrade a facility that could be just be nuclear power.
The funniest thing is he's like, oh, it's the charitable view. Then the view that I am choosing to take is the uncharitable view.
It's like, okay, so here we are being nice, but instead I'm just going to be a douche. That's it. I'm just going to be a douche about this. Fuck. Man.
Oh, man. So
Don't fuck a man.
You know, actually, you can just go ahead and kill that one. That goes on for a little longer, and we pretty much hit all of its major points. We've already seen all this stuff in Korea. I mean, look at just the way they couch their argument. They're like, oh, man, it really sucks that he's making, peace deals with foreign nations that used to be shooting nuclear missiles over our allies.
Look at that. He's shaking hands
Holy
with dictators.
shit.
He's more comfortable shaking hands with dictators than with Democrats.
It's because the Democrats are dickheads.
And the palms probably aren't sweaty.
Well, that's because they aren't as greasy. Hey-o! Somebody had to say it. All right, so we're pretty much done with Korea. Like, there hasn't been a whole lot of movement since the summit. Things are kind of cooling down in that area. Trump's made his move, and now, he has to let the diplomats do their thing, and then he'll eventually meet with, Kim Jong-un again, I'm sure. That being said, typically we touch with the Middle East after this, yeah?
Oh, yeah. We're taking everybody around the world.
Exactly. So we're going to go ahead and check out Iran. It's really funny. If this is the clip that I remember it is, and mind you, this is a week back. I'm drinking a little bit. We're a little high today. So I can
You're a little high today.
of course.
I'm doing
it's
pretty good.
Sunday, sir. My Sunday. That being said, economic turmoil in Iran, there's a lot of protests happening there. And the politicians are trying to frame Iran one way, while the politicians frame it another way. There was an incident where the protesters actually chased the police out recently. Did you hear about that?
That part I didn't hear, actually.
Yeah, it's getting crazy over there. Check it out. Play this YouTube
We're following
clip.
the latest in Iran, where more protests are expected. Demonstrations erupted over the weekend in Tehran and then spread to more cities. Business owners are demanding economic reforms and regime change. Iran's currency has weakened as the economy suffers. For more on this now, we want to bring in Behnam Ben Taleblu. He's a research fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he's with me now from Washington. Behnam, thanks for joining us. So,
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Listen, can you sort of take us through sort of the latest round of protests we've covered?
Just a reminder. So we've been covering this for a couple weeks now. What's been going on is that the Iranian government, they broke the nuclear agreement. Okay, they never intended on following it. First off. Second off, broke the nuclear agreement. Then they decided to provoke the U.S., and their people are sitting there going, what the fuck are you doing? All the European nations had deals with Iran, trade deals and lucrative, projects that they were going to be doing to make a lot of profit.
A lot of money.
And all that shit's getting shut down.
And all the money's gone.
So it's not the protesting that's causing their currency to go down. It's their government. And they're protesting because the government is fucking them.
So basically what you're saying is the Iranian people are protesting their government.
Welcome to fake news.
I've heard this before, but why are these protests so significant?
Well, these protests, which began Sunday/Monday, are the latest outpouring of discontent by the society against the state. And more importantly, they're by bazaris, men, merchants of the lower middle class who work in the realm of the economy and engage in trade. And it was the bazaar class, particularly the Tehran Grand Bazaar, that sided with the clergy in 1978, 1979, helped overthrow the late Shah and basically install the Islamic Republic. And when this class, which is part of the regime's social base, rises up, there's a problem.
So then they have seen in the past their ability to force government to change. What is the expectation in terms of how the powers that be will deal with them? Will we see change?
Well, that's actually a fascinating question, because over the past 2 decades, since the death of Khomeini, the founding father of the Islamic Revolution, the bazaar's business and political clout has been eclipsed by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, their numerous members, veterans, banks, and businesses that are basically running the Iranian state from behind the scenes. So these institutions like the bazaar have already been eclipsed. So they are pouring out into the streets as a measure of their frustration, as well as to protest the economic situation. It'll again be up to the Iranian people.
Pause this for a second.
Yo.
So, did you kind of get what he said in context with, like, if you kind of had to filter it into American jargon?
Yeah. I totally get that.
So he's basically sitting here and he's saying that the fucking silent majority is getting tired of not being listened to, and so now they're out in the street. And the reason that they don't usually get out in the street is because all the military veterans who are part of the Revolutionary Guard, who are part of the regime, are also part of these fucking political blocs that try to institute this bullshit policy. And so they're afraid to go out there and protest, or they have been before, and now they just don't give a fuck because they have nothing else to lose.
When one loses everything, one stands to gain a bunch, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, anything is worth it, apparently, in that case.
Well, let's keep going.
But for the past 8 months, different segments of Iranian society have been pouring out to contest the state based on select issues. And it's impossible to say that none of this is political, because this is all distinctly political.
Now, I know that the protests have been going on for a while now. They started well before the U.S. decided to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal. But does that decision have an impact here?
I think President Trump's campaign of financial warfare, basically restoring the 4 pieces of legislation that contain nuclear sanctions on Iran, as well as escalating the pace of Treasury Department designations on the Islamic Republic, will have an effect on the Iranian economy. The goal, of course, is to get Iran back to the negotiating table and to get a genuinely comprehensive deal that deals with all elements of the Iranian threat, be it nuclear, missile, military, terrorism, human rights, and everything else. The JCPOA nuclear deal, unfortunately, did not do that.
But in terms of the frustration that people are feeling about the economy, that has nothing, there's no real connection with the withdrawal from the deal, because that hasn't really, they haven't felt that yet, have they?
You know, it's the elites of the Islamic Republic that for 40 years have been saying, our bad economy is a product of Western sanctions. Well, Western sanctions were not this heavy in 1979. They were not even this heavy in 2006, when Iran's nuclear file was first referred to the Security Council. There was only 2010 to 2013, what I call the sanctions incubation period, that began to have a net effect on Iran's economy. These sanctions are heavy. They will have an effect on Iran's economy, on Iran's oil exports in particular, as well as Iranian banking and business. But it's the Islamic Republic that has continued to put regime interest ahead of national interest. And these sanctions will force them to a choice again.
So
all right, go ahead and kill that.
They stopped caring about the people, started caring about themselves way too much.
Exactly, and what he did there was he basically tried to couch that, yeah, they've pretty much accepted that they're fucked. Like, and here's the thing, he's right about the sanctions. The sanctions were not nearly as heavy now as, or excuse me, they were not nearly as heavy back then as they are now. And I mean, frankly, you know, if you can't trust a nation, go back to square one, right? If they do some shit like that.
Political, what's your take?
Honestly, man, I mean, it's just the same as you see everywhere. You get people so pissed off, they end up doing shit just like this everywhere around the world.
God, I wonder what their news is saying about it.
It's been pretty rough. All right, so we're done with Iran. Let's check in on our ally, Israel.
Ally. Let's see.
They launched an unprovoked attack in Syria.
They did?
Well, supposedly unprovoked. It's supposedly in reaction to some warplanes that got down. Let's check this out.
All right.
Cockpit video from Israeli warplanes as they carried out the largest and most prolonged airstrike in Syria since the start of its civil war. Israel says it hit dozens of Iranian military targets, as well as 5 Syrian anti-aircraft installations. Israel says it was a response after Iranian forces launched 20 rockets at Israeli targets in the occupied Golan Heights.
We have made it very clear that we are here to defend ourselves. Those who started this round of violence were the Iranians who attacked Israel. We responded accordingly, and we are now waiting to see how the Iranians will respond.
Israeli forces in the occupied Golan Heights were on alert for any further response. At the same time, local residents were told to go about their business as normal.
So.
Schools were open,
no
restrictions placed on large gatherings.
It's probably
Israel
just
says of the 20 rockets that were fired towards the occupied
sand.
Golan Heights from Syrian territory, they all either fell in Syrian territory or they were
intercepted.
I thought it was
what
followed was a massive and prolonged response from the Israeli armed forces, a real escalation in the kind of force that Israel has so far been prepared to use within Syria. It's a message to deter any further such action, and it's also making the most of an opportunity to do as much damage to Iranian forces as possible.
Israel's government has long warned of a growing threat from Iranian bases and missiles inside Syria. It seems to have decided to act sooner rather than later.
We have, of course, hit all the infrastructure. Not all, but almost all of the Iranian infrastructure in Syria. They must remember the saying, if it rains here, it will pour over there. And I hope that we finish this chapter and that everyone got the message.
All right, go ahead and kill that. We already know what's up. Blood for blood. You know, Israelis, they see the Iranians in a place where they can hit them, they're going to hit them. That's just the way it is. That's the way it's always been. But they're provoking the Iranians, and let's just hope they don't drag us into a war with them.
Hopefully not. We don't need that right now. Especially when people are discussing the possibility of civil war occurring on U.S. soil.
Okay, do you guys remember we were talking about Libya?
Yes.
Do you remember that, Political?
Yes.
Okay, so the situation in Libya basically has evolved over the last couple months. We've been covering this for about 8 weeks now, where they're occupied by Syrian and Egyptian force, or is it Syrian Egyptian? Yeah, it's like Syrian forces. Not Syrian, Saudi Arabian. Sorry. There's a lot of S's over there.
Saudi Arabian, Turkish, I think.
What was that you said earlier, Political? God damn, you're dyslexic. But anyway, there's a bunch of Saudi Arabian forces there. They're occupying the country. They're holding all the airports and stuff like that. They came in, as allies, like to help them out. But, the last time we checked in, they were saying that, what was it? The reporter was asking the president, I forget if they have president or prime minister, but she was asking the leader of the country, what do when are you going to call this occupation? And he's like, when we go to them and ask them to leave and they don't leave, then I'll call it occupation. Bullshit. So it's really interesting because they're holding all the ports, they're doing all the security, so they're checking everyone's IDs. He can't even get into the ports without, some Saudi Arabian guard checking his ID.
Well, fuck, that sounds like occupation right there.
Right, so that's why it's kind of like, it's a little weird. Well, anyway, they've been fighting over the city for a while. It's one of the central cities in their fight, and it looks like they're making to do a big offensive to take the city here pretty soon.
Closing in on Derna, then. Let's take a look.
Libya is being torn apart by rival armed groups 7 years on from the fall of Gaddafi. The city of Derna is on the front line of this civil war.
The man killed
the Libyan National Army is now closing in on the city and has reportedly captured one district from militant forces. The LNA operates in eastern Libya and rejects the internationally recognized government in Tripoli.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, those are like teenagers with any clothes. So basically what's happening is the government forces are coming in. They're clearing out the terrorists now. Now that the terrorists aren't being paid by the, U.S., intelligence agencies, or at least as much as they were, they're starting to lose ground.
We're going to get those terrorists. Now watch this drive.
America.
Fuck yeah. Coming to save the motherfucking day, yeah.
All right. See?
Oh, shit.
All right, we're moving on then.
Okay, so we're out of the Middle East with that Libya clip, and we're moving to the world. Last, what was that? God, it was 2 weeks ago that we were here.
Italy.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
So, yeah. Well, last time we were here, what happened with Italy was they had just refused migrant ships and the migrant ships had to sail around, and then Macron approved them coming to France. So that was a big deal. The ambassador got recalled back to Italy. He was doing a bunch of stuff. Italy has recently turned over their government to a new, like, nationalist conservative government, and so they've been at the EU summit trying to wheel and deal for a better, bargaining position with their migrant deal, and they actually made some pretty decent progress. We got a little clip on.
Let's find out.
Yeah, they look like they're in a pretty good situation right now.
Yep.
Let's find out.
Italy has welcomed the deal on immigration reached by European leaders at the Brussels summit. The country is an entry point for thousands of migrants and had threatened to veto the whole agenda if it didn't get the cooperation it wanted on the issue. Italy is not alone anymore. Finally, there's a common principle. Migration problems must be faced in a complete manner. Solutions must consider internal and external issues as well as border controls. As stated in Article 1, those who arrive in Italy arrive in Europe.
Ancora all'articolo 1 è affermato il principio chi arriva in Italia arriva in Europa.
The new populist government in Italy has recently hardened its stance on migration and came in for harsh criticism when it refused to let a ship carrying rescued migrants dock at any of its ports.
Did you see the note that I put in the show notes for that one?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, dude. So Italy came out and they threatened to veto the entire UN agenda for the next meeting if they didn't agree to the looking at their migrant problems and helping them out with them.
So they're kind of
well, hold on. All they wanted was to be treated as they were told they would be treated under the European Union agreement.
So basically,
Absolutely.
now they're showing that, wait, no, they have an actual say in this thing. They're not just going to take it from some decentralized bureau, from some central planning facility in frickin', heck, I don't know, what is it, Brussels?
Yeah, that dude's a gangster.
Damn. It's hardcore.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, the Italians are kind of, waking up over there.
Good for them. It's good.
All right. So, we got this North Korea thing is pretty much wrapping up. We're at a plateau level with that, right? So our diplomatic aspirations are now turning toward Russia. I mean, if the man can meet with Kim Jong-un, he can meet with anybody, right? I mean, if he's willing to talk face-to-face with Dr. Evil himself, I mean, come on.
I mean, all it takes is $1 million. Crickets.
Right.
All right. So, I guess they're planning a summit, right?
That's absolutely correct, and everyone is shitting their pants. So, I can't remember which order I put these in. One of these is just a kind of neutral clip. One of these is I think a Fox clip, and the other one is I think it's a MSNBC clip. So we'll see some liberal freak out tears. We'll see some Fox, this is hilarious and kind of interesting tears, and then we'll see like the neutral, like Trump is meeting with Putin. Be on the lookout for the next Soviet Superman neutral position.
All right.
We good.
Here we go.
I'm excited for this.
Italy has welcomed the deal on immigration.
There we go.
Moscow and Washington have reportedly agreed to hold a summit between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, according to Kremlin foreign policy aide Yuri Ushakov. The news came after President Putin held talks with US National Security Advisor John Bolton in the Russian capital. The conference would take place in a third country convenient to both leaders. It gives me great regret to state that Russian-US relations are not in their best shape. I've said it several times publicly and I'll reiterate today once again. It's the result of acute internal political battles in the US. But your visit to Moscow gives us hope that we'll be able to take the first steps to restore fully fledged relations between Russia and the US.
Even in earlier days when our countries had differences, our leaders and their advisors met, and I think that was good for both countries, good for stability in the world, and President Trump feels very strongly on that subject. So,
US-Russian relations have been strained for years over disagreements about Syria, Russia's actions in Ukraine, and its annexation of Crimea. But the US president is known to want to improve ties between the two nations, and earlier this month he said Russia should be readmitted to the G7 group of industrialized nations.
I mean, just look at the way that they're, like, patting each other like that.
Hey, guys, look at what the great job we did. Yay! Okay, well, we have to do the non-sexual harassment touching. Are you sure? Have you signed your consent forms?
No, I have not.
Do you have your borders pass?
No, I don't either.
You don't bring your Rolodex with you?
No, it's in my other wallet.
Shit. Well,
all right.
All right. So, basically, they're meeting, right? All right. Let's check this other one. We got this clip where they're freaking out about Bolton.
Or wait, are we sure this is the one where they're freaking out about Bolton?
Maybe. They're all freaking out about Bolton.
All right. Well, let's see which one it is.
Back with the Fox News alert, we were just telling you about this, and a new video has just come into the Fox Newsroom of U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton meeting, as you can see right there, Russian President Vladimir Putin.
He's looking at that swag.
There he is.
That swag
happened shortly ago in
oh my
Moscow.
God, the guy has
Ambassador Huntsman.
Nicholas
They are
Cage
meeting about a potential meeting between
he looks like he may
of Russia.
There's a few things on the table now that a lot of people are upset about Russia. The reason why it's a G7 and a G8, they invaded Georgia, took Crimea, shot down a civilian plane, denied it, invaded Ukraine, tried to carve up that nation, flew into Syria, didn't deconflict, and are co-responsible for the killing of tens of thousands of people. Until they can own up to that, or at least explain that, it's going to be hard to see any type of traction between the two countries, especially coming out of the NATO summit. I'm very interested to see how this goes, because Ambassador Bolton's not one to usually give an inch.
All right, let's bring in Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president.
Well,
she
when
is
he
live at
does.
the White House this morning. Hey, Kellyanne, what's your reaction to this? Will we see a summit?
Perhaps. Obviously, Ambassador Bolton is there to discuss the state of U.S.-Russia relations, but also to perhaps prepare for a prospective summit between the two leaders. Everything that you've said is important to put in the context of all the other actions this president has not been afraid to take. There have been sanctions. We've expelled Russians from this country, Russian officials from this country, obviously not once but twice. This president has taken swift and decisive action against Assad in Syria, who's being propped up by Putin. But at the same time, this president made clear when he sat down with Putin last year that if there are big issues that our two countries can work on together, he is willing to entertain working together on those issues. You saw him in Singapore. I know the media don't want to cover an historic summit that was just 2 short weeks ago anymore, the success of that summit. But this is a president who again and again is willing to go where other presidents have refused to go and make good on the promise of peace, in this case, a denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, and the many different issues that perhaps the United States and Russia can tackle together.
Where no president has gone before.
Yeah, right. This is his modus operandi now, though.
It's perfect. All right, take it.
You know what I noticed something several times when Putin's about to meet Bolton. His face is all red and lit up, and he's a little bit taken aback by Bolton. I think he's definitely intimidated, as far as I can tell.
It's the mustache, bro.
The mustache really does have power.
You see that mustache in the black and white photos? That fucker's like, ping!
Yeah, seriously.
All right, so let's see what MSNBC has to say about all this then, shall we?
Absolutely.
Well, it's official. Donald Trump is finally getting one of the things that he seemed to want the most. Trump is scheduled to hold a summit meeting with Vladimir Putin on July 16th in Helsinki, a city with a long history of hosting U.S.-Russia summits. The White House statement was vague on the details of what Trump and Putin are expected to discuss. Here's part of the two-line statement from the White House. Quote, the two leaders will discuss relations between the United States and Russia and a range of national security issues. Yesterday, National Security Advisor John Bolton, who met with Putin yesterday in Moscow, and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo assured lawmakers and reporters that Trump will discuss Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election when he meets with Putin. However, it becomes harder to be optimistic about that after Trump's tweet this morning saying Russia continues to say they had nothing to do with meddling in our election. Where's the DNC server, and why didn't shady James Comey and the now disgraced FBI agents take and examine it? Why isn't Hillary Russia being looked at? So many questions, so much corruption! Exclamation point.
Hillary's
Trump meeting with Putin is set to follow the NATO summit in Belgium. Today, we learned about comments that Trump made about NATO in a private meeting during the G7 summit earlier this month that have some U.S. allies concerned. Axios reports that Trump told leaders it will be an interesting summit. NATO is as bad as NAFTA. It's much too costly for the U.S. The report also says that Trump made the comment after telling the G7 leaders that Crimea probably should belong to Russia.
All right, pause
because
this.
Everyone.
All right, so did you hear what she said?
Yes.
Russia is evil because they hacked our election. You must be scared of Trump because he is trying to destroy NATO, the madman. He is trying to make it so that Russia can conquer us by reinforcing our military, by making us look towards space combat, by allowing us to rebuild our infrastructure and economy. The madman, the devil. Why would he do such things? Horrible man. And then he goes to meet with our competitor, the man who wants to invade us. Why would he ever do that? Who talks their problems out? Who discusses things? I don't do therapy. That's why I dye my hair blue.
Son of a bitch.
Oh my God. That was just the most perfect monologue I've ever heard from you, Breadbox.
That's not
God. That was good.
It's not their fault that they don't know how to deal with their problems or how to handle their emotions. They were never taught.
Oh God, should we continue with more of this clip or?
Honestly, I think we could probably leave it at that. We already got the propaganda out from them. Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to say Russia bad, Trump bad. He is trying to destroy the world by destroying whatchamacallit, NATO.
Trump bad, ooga booga.
Ooga booga. Trump bad. Trump bad. I don't even want to know what I'm trying to do there. All right. Bolton, Trump. Okay, so we're done with all the Russia shit. Now we're coming back home. We got some pretty long clips. Okay, so when we were gone, there were some pretty serious hearings that happened, and we need to look at some stuff from them. So I know how much our audience really loves Trey Gowdy and Jim Jordan. And so I pulled the Jim Jordan, Trey Gowdy hearing clips. One's from Rod Rosenstein and one is from Ray. So I think it's Trey with Ray. No, it's Trey with Rosenstein and it's Jim Jordan with Ray.
Would have been funny if it was the other way around, because then it would rhyme.
I know. Trey with Ray. Yeah. I mean, it's not like they're going to be on a love boat, you know? Well, they might. You never know. I mean, Trey Gowdy does have that weird hairstyle. Let's be real.
Ray's is a little bit like weird too, kind of like poofy and like I don't know.
Well, let's take a look.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Gowdy, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Russia investigation has been going on for almost 2 years now. Special counsel's investigation has been going on for over a year now. For most Americans, it's important to know what Russia did to our country in 2016 and with whom, if anyone, they did it. When a foreign state interferes with our democratic electoral process, it should be a chance of a lifetime for a law enforcement agent to investigate that, except apparently the one that was actually picked to investigate it. That was Peter Strzok. FBI agent Peter Strzok was picked to lead the FBI's investigation into what Russia did in July of 2016. It was a counterintelligence investigation begun in late July 2016, and he was leading it. And at about the exact same time he was picked to lead it, this dispassionate and fair FBI agent was calling Trump a disaster, destabilizing for the country. I'll leave out all the adjectives he used to describe that. I'll just go with disaster and destabilizing.
Okay, we
Same
won't talk about the
time, his
president
FBI lawyer girlfriend, Lisa Page, was telling him he was meant to protect the country. This neutral, dispassionate FBI agent said, I can protect the country at many levels. Same time, Peter Strzok, who was picked to objectively, fairly, neutrally look into the Russia investigation, was talking about an insurance policy with Andy McCabe and Lisa Page in the event Donald Trump became the president. All of this was happening at the same time Peter Strzok said he could smell the Trump support in Southern Virginia. All this was at the same time
What did it smell like?
that this FBI agent said a Trump
Team
presidency would be effing terrifying.
MAGA.
And that it will never happen. No, we'll stop it. So while investigating Russia and their attempt to subvert our democracy may have been important to the rest of the country, it wasn't all that important to about a half dozen FBI agents and lawyers who were assigned to the case. For them, it was an investigation to stop Donald Trump, which then brings us to May of 2017 and the appointment of special counsel, where we find Peter Strzok again, this same supposed to be dispassionate, neutral, fair FBI agent. You would think he'd be really excited about investigating what a foreign power tried to do to this country. But you would be wrong again for Peter Strzok at precisely the same time that Bob Mueller was appointed. Precisely the same time. Peter Strzok was talking about his unfinished business and how he needed to fix and finish it so Donald Trump did not become president. He was talking about impeachment within 3 days of special counsel Mueller being appointed.
Pause this.
3 days.
3 days.
Yeah. That's big.
3 days.
Look at the look on his face. Can we get it? I'm screenshotting that. I want to make an emoji out of that.
I got a knack for capturing frames.
Good. That is great. Screen capping that. That's, yeah. That is amazing. Oh my God.
That's good shit right there, man. Yeah.
Such a good reaction pick.
All right. Am I allowed to continue?
The Gowdy. Well, okay.
Not allowed. Damn it.
Go right ahead. Actually, let's keep watching.
That's even quicker than MSNBC and the Democrats were talking about impeaching him. Within 3 days, the lead FBI agent is talking about impeaching the president. So this is where we are. We're 2 years into this investigation. We're a year and a half into the presidency. We're over a year into special counsel. You have a counterintelligence investigation that's become public. You have a criminal investigation that's become political. You have more bias than I have ever seen manifest in a law enforcement officer in the 20 years I used to do it for a living. And 4 other DOJ employees who had manifest animus towards the person they were supposed to be neutrally and detachedly investigating. Democrats are using this investigation as a presumption of guilt, which I find astonishing. And in the long run, for the health of this republic, I would encourage them to go back to the presumption of innocence that we used to hold sacred. There's a presumption of guilt. There's a desire by Democrat senators to fundraise off of your investigation.
Yep.
More than 60 Democrats have already voted to proceed with impeachment before Bob Mueller has found a single solitary damn thing. More than 60 have voted to move forward with impeachment, and he hasn't presented his first finding. So I'm going to say this to you, Mr. Ray, Mr. Rosenstein. I realize that neither one of you were there when this happened, but you're both there now. Russia attacked this country. They should be the target, but Russia isn't being hurt by this investigation right now. We are. This country is being hurt by it. We are being divided. We've seen the bias.
On purpose.
We've seen the bias. We need to see the evidence. If you have evidence of wrongdoing by any member of the Trump campaign, present it to the damn grand jury. If you have evidence that this president acted inappropriately, present it to the American people. There's an old saying that justice delayed is justice denied. I think right now all of us are being denied. Whatever you got.
This shit is why people are saying Trey Gowdy for Supreme Court.
Because this country is being torn apart. I would yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I yield my time.
Either the witnesses care to respond to the...
Reclaiming my time.
Simply respond, Ms. Gowdy. I certainly share your views.
You guys got any comments?
Nice pause there for that guy.
And, nobody is more offended than I about what's reflected in those
Gowdy
messages.
mode is just
Regarding the investigation, I've heard suggestions that we should just close the investigation. I think the best thing we can do is finish it appropriately and reach a conclusion. And I certainly agree with you, sir, that people should not jump to conclusions without seeing the evidence. I've been the victim of fake news attacks myself, so I'm sympathetic.
Well, you're gonna.
I agree with you, sir, that
Really
there's no allegation made by the Department of Justice or the special counsel other than what's reflected in those documents that are filed publicly, the charged folks. And nobody should draw any conclusions beyond those charges.
should not draw any conclusions beyond those charges. So is that
including the idiot Democrats trying to say that everything's Russia?
Because I mean, if you actually read the documents,
you know what that says.
What does it say?
You can only say things about me that are true and provable. If you do this, I will sue you for slander.
You got that from that?
No, but it is a thing.
Well, shit. Damn, I would have gotten bust for slander there. Damn.
I mean, think about it. Like he's saying that. Well, I have also been the subject of fake news, and like he only hits on that so that he can say, well, you know what? I'm actually an authority on what you're talking about, and I know more about fake news than you do. So you need to shut up and stop talking about me and telling people I'm fake news.
Both sides just calling each other fake news.
Yeah,
lovely.
pretty much.
All right.
Yeah, but one side kind of has some evidence, the other not shit.
Buttload of evidence.
Where's the rest of the report, buddy?
Oh yeah. All right.
The unredacted report.
Unredacted.
All right, Jim Jordan, what up?
See what he's doing with Ray.
Director, was Agent Peter Strzok the former deputy head of counterintelligence at the FBI?
I don't remember his exact title, but I believe that's correct.
And he's the same Peter Strzok who was a key player in the Clinton investigation, the same Peter Strzok who interviewed Cheryl Mills, Huma Abedin, participated in the Clinton Secretary Clinton's interview, and he's also the same Peter Strzok who now we know changed Director Comey's exoneration letter, changed the term gross negligence, which is a crime, to extreme carelessness. Is that the same guy?
Well, Congressman, I don't know every step that the individual you mentioned was involved in, but certainly I know that he was heavily involved in the Clinton email investigation.
Thank you. And is this the same Peter Strzok?
So if anybody's wondering, if you've never watched one of these hearings before, he's getting hung up over semantics because if he doesn't, he can get charged with perjury.
Absolutely.
All right. He's under oath. Let's go.
Who helped... was a key player in the Russian investigation, and the same Peter Strzok who was put on Mueller's team, Special Counsel Bob Mueller's team?
I certainly know that he was working on the Special Counsel's investigation. Whether or not he would be characterized as a key player on that investigation, that's really not for me to say.
And the same Peter Strzok that we learned this past weekend was removed from the Special Counsel team because he exchanged text messages with a colleague at the FBI that displayed a pro-Clinton bias. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Talk about the same guy. Okay.
Yes.
Well, here's what I'm not getting. Peter Strzok is selected to be on Mueller's team after all this history, put on Mueller's team, and then he's removed for some pro-Clinton text messages. I mean, there are all kinds of people on Mueller's team who are pro-Clinton. There's been all kinds of stories. PolitiFact reported 96% of the top lawyers' contributions went to Clinton or Obama. But Peter Strzok, the guy who ran the Clinton investigation, interviewed Mills, Abedin, interviewed Secretary Clinton, changed gross negligence, a crime, to the term extreme carelessness, who ran the Russian investigation, who interviewed Mike Flynn, gets put on Mueller's team, and then he gets kicked off for a text message that's anti-Trump. If you kicked everybody off Mueller's team who was anti-Trump, I don't think there'd be anybody left. So there's got to be something more here. It can't just be some text messages that show a pro-Clinton, anti-Trump bias. There's got to be something more. And I'm trying to figure out what it is. But my hunch is it has something to do with the dossier. Director, did Peter Strzok help produce and present the application to the FISA court to secure a warrant to spy on Americans associated with the Trump campaign?
Congressman, I'm not prepared to discuss anything about a FISA process in this setting.
We're not talking about what happened in the court. We're talking about what the FBI took to the court, the application. Did Peter Strzok, was he involved in taking that to the court?
I'm not going to discuss in this setting anything to do with the FISA court applications.
Well, let's remember a couple things, Director. And I know you know this. We've all been made aware of this in the last few weeks. Let's remember a couple things about the dossier. The Democrat National Committee and the Clinton campaign, which we now know were one and the same, paid the law firm, who paid Fusion GPS, who paid Christopher Steele, who then paid Russians, to put together a report that we call a dossier full of all kinds of fake news National Enquirer garbage. And it's been reported that this dossier was all dressed up by the FBI, taken to the FISA court, and presented as a legitimate intelligence document, that it became the basis for granting a warrant to spy on Americans.
One of the most unconstitutional things
I'm
that's
wondering
ever
if that
happened
actually
in our
took place.
history.
It sure looks like it did. And the easiest way to clear it up is for you guys to tell us what was in that application and who took it there.
Congressman, our staffs have been having extensive interaction with both intelligence committees on our interaction with the FISA court, and I think that's the appropriate setting for those questions.
Here's what I think, Director Wray. I think Peter Strzok, head of counterintelligence at the FBI, Peter Strzok, the guy who ran the Clinton investigation, did all the interviews, Peter Strzok, the guy who was running the Russian investigation at the FBI, Peter Strzok, Mr. Super Agent at the FBI, I think he's the guy who took the application to the FISA court. And if that happened, I mean, think if this happened, if you had the FBI working with a campaign, the Democrats' campaign, taking opposition research, dressing it all up and turning it into an intelligence document and taking it to the FISA court so they could spy on the other campaign, if that happened,
somebody's
that
in
is
trouble.
as wrong as it gets. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. You could clear it all up. You could clear it all up for all of us here, all the Congress who wants to know, and frankly, all of America who wants to know. You could clear it all up by release. We sent you a letter 2 days ago. Just release the application. Tell us what was in it. Tell us if I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. I think that's exactly what happened. And if it did, it is as wrong as it can be. And people who did that need to be held accountable.
Congressman, we will not hesitate to hold people accountable after there has been an appropriate investigation, independent and objective, by the Inspector General into the handling of the prior matter. And based on that, I will look at all available remedies, depending on what the facts are when they are found. As to the access to the dossier, that's something that is subject of ongoing discussion between my staff and the various intelligence committees.
There's nothing prohibiting you, Director. Is there anything prohibiting you from showing this committee what was presented to the FISA court? The application you all put together at the FBI that was presented to the FISA court. Is there anything preventing you from showing us that?
The time of the gentleman has expired. The director can respond.
I do not believe that I can legally and appropriately share a FISA court submission with this committee.
I'm talking about what the FBI put together, not what the court had, what you took there, what was the process put together, what you presented, what you took to the court.
When I sign FISA applications, which I have to do almost every day of the week, they are all covered with a classified information cover. So that's part of why we would not be discussing it here.
Is it likely that Peter Strzok played a part in the application presented to the FISA court?
The gentleman's time has expired. However, I do want to follow up on your last response to the gentleman. This committee, the House Judiciary Committee, has primary jurisdiction over the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. Yeah. So any request for documents coming to any part of the Congress should include the House Judiciary Committee, and if it is classified in any way, shape, or form, it can be provided to us in a classified setting. But that is information that we are very much interested in,
Mr. Chairman,
very much want to receive.
Just a question to the chairman. Yeah, I don't think there's anything prohibiting the FBI from giving us what they used to put together what was taken to the FISA court. That's what we're asking for, and there is nothing prohibiting him from doing that.
I don't think there is either.
Oh,
time of the gentleman has expired, however.
Boom.
Got him.
Headshot.
Oh. Right there. It's like, oh my God, they just fucked up.
God, that was good.
Oh, because who can release all the documents?
The president can, and so can they.
Oh, boy. Oh, this is going to be a lovely July.
It's going to be a good time. I'm really excited.
Yeah,
okay, so we got some bad news.
Yeah.
Were you guys watching the news yesterday?
Yep.
You saw the shooting?
Yep. That we were.
Well, buckle up. Here we go again.
New reporting after that horrific scene unfolded late today. The man opening fire on reporters at a newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland. At least 5 dead. Authorities not long ago revealing multiple others were shot and are in, quote, grave condition tonight. It happened in the Capitol Gazette newsroom, and this image we have seen so often at mass shootings, usually children marching out of schools Tonight, adults, reporters from that newsroom and the rest of that building walking out with their hands in the air.
I hear the response time.
Authorities say police officers there within 60 seconds or so surrounding the shooter.
60
who
seconds.
had been shooting through the glass door of the newsroom. A sweep of the building also revealing tonight one explosive device. And this evening, they are questioning that suspect. But we have learned that even with him in custody, they had a very difficult task of trying to identify him. We begin tonight with ABC's Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas at the scene.
The shooting began just after 2:30.
Off, like Men in Black style.
Why would he have his fingerprints burned off, and why would it take them that long just to ID the guy? I mean, can't they do just a blood draw or something?
Bacon for me to tell you.
This
some bacon and some
in the newsroom of the Annapolis Capital Gazette newspaper. The call going out for emergency help.
Several shots have been fired. Possible shotgun. At least 10 shots heard.
There was a massive response from multiple agencies, local police arriving within 60 seconds.
All units, limit your transmissions. Do we have any kind of intel on our shooter? Fight my own with a ponytail.
Police then trying to get people out. Adults could be seen coming out with their hands in the air, getting searched by the police.
The police came through, knocking on our door, grabbing the door, and then checking to make sure we are okay. And the next thing you know, he's like, "You need to get out, you need to get out." So then we all ran out into the hallway.
We're doing everything we can to get people out safe, and we're trying to minimize the casualties.
While inside, a police reporter at the newspaper, Phil Davis, tweeting his description of the horror unfolding. He said it was like a war zone, tweeting, "A single shooter shot multiple people at my office, some of whom are dead." Then he tweets, "Gunman shot through the glass door to the office and opened fire on multiple employees. Can't say much more and don't want to declare anyone dead, but it's bad." And perhaps his most chilling tweet came next. "There's nothing more terrifying than hearing multiple people get shot while you're under your desk and then hear the gunman reload."
Okay, so he's sitting there under a desk while shots are going on and people are dying around him, and he's fucking tweeting?
Yep.
Get the fuck up! Throw something at the guy! Do something! Come on! Don't be a fucking little bitch like that! Do something! Get up! God damn!
Be an armed citizen and take that fucker down.
Oh.
Then late today, authorities before the cameras confirming the terrible toll.
There are several people who have died from this incident, and several others are injured. I don't know what to say other than our thoughts and prayers are with them and their families.
Police then confirming 5 dead. The scene unfolding for hours as police used dogs to search for explosives or possible accomplices.
Command copy, suspect in custody per PD.
Tonight, authorities confirming they surrounded the alleged gunman and he was captured. A shotgun found at the scene, sources telling ABC News.
The shooter is in custody and being interrogated at this time.
Tonight, authorities say the building is secure and that there are no other shooters. But when asked if they knew the shooter, if he was on their radar, they would not answer.
It was very, very scary because you would never think something would happen to you at work. I just thank God that he got me and all of my coworkers out safely.
And tonight, that police reporter who was hiding under his desk telling the paper, "I'm a police reporter. I write about this stuff all the time. But as much as I'm going to try to articulate how traumatizing it is to be hiding under your desk, you don't know until you're there and you feel helpless."
And Pierre Thomas live on the scene in Annapolis, Maryland tonight. And Pierre, we know that reporter who tweeted he was hiding under his desk. He also said he could hear the shooter reload, but then at some point he stopped firing, the reporter saying, "I don't know why." And tonight we've also learned that at first they didn't even know who the suspect was, even with him sitting across from interrogators. Why was this so difficult?
That's right, David. They initially had trouble identifying him. We're told now they have tentatively identified the suspect as Jared Ramos, and a search is being conducted at a residence linked to him here in Maryland. David?
Pierre Thomas leading us off tonight. Pierre, thank you.
There you are. Hey, everyone.
Oh, God.
Have a good day. Shout out to the LA Beast. Love that.
Kind of funny how the FBI had no comment on if he was on their radar.
Well, I've read some articles that seem to hint that yes, he was, and then on top of that, I think there was an explosive device that they found, or rather, there was a story where they thought they found one, and they hadn't confirmed whether or not it was one or not. We're gonna get more info on this. We'll probably report back on it next week.
How could you just sit there and tweet?
I'd be tweeting, fool.
Yeah, I mean that's how you write like love letters and shit now, right? No, like nobody loves him because he's a piece of shit. So
I'd be like calling my wife or like texting her or something. But
exactly,
yeah.
but like he's a piece of shit, so he's on Twitter.
God, fuck the nerves. Oh, man, don't get me wrong. I mean, sure, yeah, the guy was fucking scared shitless, but I mean, come, oh god.
You know what the real narcissist, or the not narcissist, what the real pessimist in me thinks is that maybe he was like, oh man, I'm the new David Hogg.
Let's move on to the next clip. Let's move on to that one.
It's a statement by the sheriff. Pretty quick.
We've had a terrible shooting incident here this afternoon.
Actually, you know what? Go ahead and kill us. We saw this guy.
Several people.
Sorry, I thought it was a separate clip. Where did that?
Okay, gosh. Damn it! I mean, God. Even at my job, we've got we've received instructions on how to deal with something like that. You don't just sure, yeah, they say hide under the desk or whatever, but if you can fight back, fight back.
Mm-hmm.
God. Okay. All right.
When was the last time you saw Barney?
Last time I saw Barney?
Barney.
I thought you were talking about the dinosaur.
No, Mr. Sanders, Mr. 1%.
I don't know. I think for me personally, I think it's been a couple of months.
Well,
shoot, bro.
He has a powerful statement about Anthony Kennedy's retirement. Let's watch.
Senator Sanders, Senator Blumenthal calls Kennedy's announcement earth-shaking, gut-wrenching. Jeff Toobin says in 18 months abortion will be illegal in some 20 states. Is this potentially the end of Roe v. Wade?
Well, you know, it's ironic. The polling is very clear that the overwhelming majority of the American people support Roe versus Wade. We have differences of opinion on abortion, but the idea of overturning Roe versus Wade would be a decision that reflects only a small minority of the American people. So I hope very much that the next nominee to for the Supreme Court does not hold that position. But the bottom line is this is obviously an enormously important issue. Everything to do with women's rights, having to do with gay rights, having to do with solidifying the pro-corporate, anti-worker wing of the Supreme Court.
Do you have any confidence that President Trump would appoint somebody to your liking? I mean, it certainly seems that, you know, he did publish a list during the campaign of potential nominees. Gorsuch
now, what do you think about his
list.
fantasy picks?
I don't know. Let's find out.
And he's indicated this next one will come from that list as well.
No, I have no hope that he will appoint anything resembling a moderate or a justice who will take both sides into consideration. I think what we're looking for is the nomination of a right-wing extremist. I would say this, Anderson. You may recall that when Merrick Garland's nomination was brought forth by President Obama, Mitch McConnell said, let the American people decide. You shouldn't be considering this important nomination just before an election.
Pause this real quick.
Obstructed.
Okay, so they've been fear-mongering about the new justice appointee. Said, oh no, I have no doubt that there are no possible candidates on his list that could possibly be in any way favorable to our positions. Then he specifically mentions Merrick Garland, who's on Trump's fucking list. Just remember that face. Look at that android and that old man.
This is why people need to read the documents.
As Ben Shapiro would say, can someone get him a pudding cup, please?
And refuse to allow a vote to take place.
Actually,
I would say to Mitch McConnell.
All right.
Let's take it into the next clip. We do have a clip where Trump talks about his potential picks for, or excuse me, someone talks about Trump's potential picks for justice.
big question. Wow, a Fox News alert for you. Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy announcing his retirement, opening up yet another seat on the high court that President Trump will have the opportunity to fill. So who can we expect the president to tap to replace Kennedy? Here now to weigh in is former Department of Justice official Hans von Spakovsky. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Sure thing.
All right, so just tell us, who's it going to be?
Well, nobody. We don't really know.
No, that's true. We do have some names, though, some potential nominees, and the president has said that he will pull from that list of 25 that we know of. Let's take a look at some of the top names right now that we're looking through as they scroll through. Amy Barrett, and then I can't read them that quickly, but there's 25 of them. We've narrowed it down to about 6, and we're being told that Brett Kavanaugh is possibly in the lead. Yep. Now, what do you know about these folks?
Well, Brett Kavanaugh now has a really good record on the Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia. You know, he worked in the Bush administration, and I mean, if you read his opinions, he is the kind of conservative, the kind of constitutionalist that I'm sure that the president would like on the Supreme Court.
And then possibly a woman, Amy Coney Barrett, as well?
Yes. Yeah, Amy Coney Barrett, she's also now, you know, on the Court of Appeals, and she was the target of some very nasty anti-Catholic bias when she was going through her confirmation hearings before. But again, a conservative justice, someone who believes in the Constitution being applied as it was written.
Yeah, and she was just recently added, correct? She was, what, 5 that were recently added? And then another top name, Amul Tapar.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, the list that the president came up with really is an amazing list. And these are all folks who I think would fulfill what the president wants. He wants somebody like Justice Scalia, like Neil Gorsuch has proved in his first year, someone who is not going to vote the wrong way on some issues the way, unfortunately, Justice Kennedy has in the past.
Right. So he ended up being the swing vote, even though he was initially brought in by Reagan. He was supposed to be the conservative vote, but he broke it down, you know, and now it's like 4-4. So very important, as you were saying, who President Trump brings in, a more conservative judge that could, you know, have implications for generations.
No, that's true. And all you need to do is look at this week. This was.
If he gets another conservative judge in, there could be a chance that there will be a third. That's the crazy part, to be honest. You know, honestly, I think we're done with this clip, too.
Wiping it away. Fuck.
You know, I thought it was funny. She was trying to catch an Aleppo moment there for a minute. See that?
Yep. Good thing you
caught it. She was like, how about this guy? Is he your token Indian? Did you kidnap him from a call center? No, actually, he's probably a very accomplished judge. I apologize. My humor is crass and terrible, and
you should be ashamed of yourself.
Wonderful. All right. So moving on with this Kennedy retires deal. Pretty much finished on that. Oh yeah, we got some news about Peter Strzok. We missed this last week because we weren't here. Guess who lost their security clearance? Play it.
New fallout from that recently released Inspector General report causing a ripple effect inside the FBI. Embattled anti-Trump FBI agent, that guy right there, Peter Strzok, who texted that he would stop Donald Trump from becoming president, apparently has lost his security clearance.
Look at
this as we learn that.
Look at it. Look at that bald spot. Look at it.
Looks like a mountain.
Look at it.
3 of the 5 FBI officials targeted for anti-Trump bias were all part of the Mueller probe.
Jesus Christ, there's just so many good grads from this.
It's like the mole from freaking Austin Powers.
What? Here with the reaction, founder and executive director of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk.
Holy
Charlie,
shit, that guy has a beat.
Not surprising that Peter Strzok would lose his security counsel. I mean, he was escorted out of the building a couple of days ago.
Well, why hasn't he lost his job? I mean, so they say that's a big deal that he lost his security clearance. I mean, he should have been fired instantaneously when this stuff came out. But this just goes to show that there is an unelected, unknown a group of bureaucrats at a very, very high level of government agencies that have unlimited political power. And what if we wouldn't have unearthed these documents? What if, the heroes in Congress, such as Devin Nunes or Mark Meadows, wouldn't have went through this unbelievable effort to get these documents? This all just would have been labeled a conspiracy theory.
So we know about 5 employees at the FBI.
That's getting thrown around a lot
anti-Trump
lately,
text.
Yeah,
but how many others are they?
Yeah. I mean, how much have they called a conspiracy theory so far? I mean,
pretty much
getting
everything,
crazy, man.
Pretty much everything that's negative to anything that could be a positive outcome for Trump is labeled a conspiracy theory.
Don't get me wrong, there are crazy conspiracy theories and everything like that. I mean, we do we cook our fair share of conspiracy bacon, like our format sake does. But at the same time, we try to come up with some data for you guys if we have a theory.
Yeah,
and
when it comes time for the tinfoil, we'll bring it out. But
exactly. But the thing is like, let's be real. They're trying to call us fake news. That's what they're trying to.
Basically.
They just didn't catch.
Well, right, and how much other behavior is there that any logical conclusion can say there was probably deleted documents and reappropriated assignments that went against this president time and time again, and this should exonerate the president completely when it comes to the Mueller probe. Because remember, this is the very institution that started the entire fake dossier that ended up launching this investigation.
And Charlie, the fact that Rod Rosenstein will not release the stuff that Congress wants to see, just so they can figure out why did this get started in the beginning? Because it does look to many on the political right, and you mentioned a couple of names that have been at the forefront of this. It looks like the FBI has redacted a bunch of stuff because it makes them look bad. They're not going to hand them over the documents because it started on a flimsy premise.
Like no one should be above the law. And what you're seeing here is you see a level of government bureaucrats and agents that allow their political bias to get directly into their work. And then when they get challenged, they say, how dare you challenge our work or the integrity of the FBI? The thing that I found most disgusting about the IG report
they became the
was
outrage
one sentence.
police.
After all these findings, the integrity of the FBI is still intact. Are you kidding me? You received gifts in exchange with reporters. There, you have text messages of senior level FBI agents saying, no, don't worry, we'll stop it. And the integrity of the FBI is still intact? I don't think so. And the President of the United States was correct in firing Comey last spring, and this Mueller investigation should be ended completely and totally.
All right, let's kill it. All right, so, one thing that they didn't hit on that I thought was kind of, that they forgot about is that Trump has been going out of his way to try to reestablish the legitimacy of the FBI the whole way through that. Everyone forgets to say that. Like, all Trump wants to do is he wants to get past the investigation and he wants to restore the legitimacy of the FBI so we can get on with our lives and have a police force that the country can trust.
But people didn't want to move on with their lives.
They're just not helping. It's the committees, man. If shit would go through the committees faster, we'd be doing better. All right. All right. Did you guys hear about the red hen?
A little bit. Yeah. I touch on that.
I got 2 clips on that. I have Sarah Sanders. We can do this in whichever order you choose. We can go Sarah Sanders' statement and then how that affected the neighborhood, or we can go to how that affected the neighborhood and then Sarah Sanders' statement.
I don't know. What do you think, political?
I think how it affected the neighborhood and then Sarah Sanders.
All right, please 17.
There is a growing sense around here in Lexington that it was a bad mistake on the part of the owner of the Red Hen to boot Sarah Huckabee Sanders out. We have since learned that the owner of the Red Hen is also the executive director of an influential business group in Lexington called Main Street Lexington. A passerby who purports to be a member of that same group dropped us off a flyer yesterday. That flyer read in part, quote, "Our business, which is completely unrelated to the Red Hen, is under attack. Lexington is under attack. My business is receiving letters and calls from groups associated with tourism saying they refuse to bring their business to Lexington because of this woman's actions." This incident, it goes without saying, is truly resonating across the country. Representative Maxine Waters was excoriated for her remarks over the weekend in which she implored her supporters to hound and harass Trump administration officials at any time, any place.
Okay, hold on. Stop. Didn't just say officials. She said supporters.
Supporters?
Yes. She said you should confront them wherever you find them.
Yep.
supporters. Now, I want you to hear this. Now, they're trying to be, you know, they're trying not to make this a big deal, right? This is Fox News. They're not trying to be fearmongers or anything. They're trying to tamp down her message because they want to, you know, cause any problems or, you know, over-report or be fear-mongering. This isn't CNN freaking out about Trump opening up concentration camps. But seriously, this woman is willing to incite violence.
Has been for a long time.
It's insane.
She's dangerous.
Mad Maxine.
Not just from Republicans. A spokesman for Virginia Senator Tim Kaine told the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and I quote, Senator Kaine believes civility and respect from everyone are important to a functioning democracy and adheres to the biblical wisdom not to repay evil with evil or insult with insult. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer also sent a clear message to Waters to basically cease and desist.
No one should call for the harassment of political opponents.
Here he goes.
That's not right. That's not American.
I am Chuck Schumer.
Shortly after that, Waters called a hastily convened press conference in which he tried to defend her remarks.
Trump is the one who's creating lies, trying to have people believe that I talked about harming people. There's nowhere in my statement, anytime, any place, that we talked about harm.
The Red Hen is scheduled to open tonight at 5:30. We will see what the day brings.
So she didn't talk about harming people. She was talking about confronting them. So technically, she's right.
Technically.
That's the fucking
That's it. That's just so freaking slimy.
I know, man. I know. I got you. All right. Let's see what Sarah has to say. She's always pretty level-headed about this. Although, man, that lady, too witty.
Many by now have heard that I was asked to leave a restaurant this weekend where I attempted to have dinner with my family. My husband and I politely left and went home. I was asked to leave because I work for President Trump. We are allowed to disagree, but we should be able to do so freely and without fear of harm. And this goes for all people regardless of politics. Some have chosen to push hate and vandalism against the restaurant that I was asked to leave from. A Hollywood actor publicly encouraged people to kidnap my children. And this weekend, a member of Congress called for people to push back and make clear to those serving their country in this administration that they are not welcome
How's
anywhere,
that shit?
anytime.
Think about what she just said. Hollywood actor just said that someone should kidnap her children. She's not being hyperbolic here. I mean, it's not like, okay, she's not saying that like people would do it. She's just saying, hey, someone with a lot of influence and a lot of followers said to do it, and there are crazy people out there.
Violence on the left.
And they said it would come from the right.
Yep.
Let's finish up with this clip. I want to hear the end of this.
I'm for anything. Healthy debate on ideas and political philosophy is important, but the calls for harassment and push for any Trump supporter to avoid the public is unacceptable. America is a great country, and our ability to find solutions despite those disagreements is what makes us unique.
I didn't realize they had the title card there.
It's all good, but I mean, that was a really clear and poignant message of nonviolence and discussing things with people you disagree with coming from the Trump White House, which I guess is pissing everybody the fuck off even more.
Open hands instead of closed fists. Okay, we've been talking about a lot of pretty heavy shit. We talked about a shooting. We laughed about some dumb politics.
I got angry. Yeah.
Yeah. Bro,
damn.
I mean, it's been a rough night, right? So
it's been a rough 2 weeks. Damn.
I know that Disney's an evil empire, and I know we don't like them, but at the same time, even though they've completely raped Star Wars, Marvel, I asked, sorry, bro, like, I love cape shit. Did you hear about the Fox deal?
I heard a little bit about that.
It got approved.
Ooh.
So here's the background story. Disney wanted to acquire Fox, 21st Century Fox, their movie property, their TV property. And basically what they wanted to do was acquire it so they could get their characters back. Comcast made a counterbid. Disney came back with another one. Fox accepted the Disney bid, even though Comcast came back with a second counterbid. So what this means, at least for nerds everywhere, is that we might see the X-Men and Fantastic Four in the MCU. that means like Galactus and all the other crazy characters that go along with them that they couldn't show before because they sold their rights before. So let's watch this Bloomberg clip. It'll give us a little bit more of a mundane, non-nerdy perspective on this.
Disney now has raised its bid for Fox to $38 a share. Later today, the board of 21st Century Fox is going to be meeting to review Comcast's $65 billion offer to buy most of its assets. But in the meantime, Fox has already made a new agreement with Disney, accepting their much-upped bid. Joining us now on the telephone is Craig Moffett, Moffett-Nathanson founding partner and senior research analyst. So, Craig, thank you so much for being with us. This is quite a bold bid by Bob Iger. It was not shy.
Yeah, you're right. There was a lot of speculation that Disney's bid would come in on top of or even a little below Comcast because, in many ways, Disney is presumed to be a superior bid, in part because it's more tax efficient for the Murdoch family, because it's stock rather than cash. They've preserved the option of taking all stock, which presumably is a nod to the Murdochs. But they went ahead and meaningfully topped Comcast's bid as well. So now the board of Fox has already said this is the superior bid, and the ball is back in Comcast court to see whether they want to top.
So can Brian, how much can Brian Roberts really afford? I mean, he's got a fair amount of debt in his balance sheet already. He was all cash. So what do we expect now from Brian Roberts?
Well, the balance sheet was clean, or arguably too clean for most investors' taste before all this started. But you're right, there is a clear limit because of their commitment to not issue any stock with their shares trading at a depressed level. So they have to do it all with cash, and therefore there are clear limits. Now, that said, some of it depends on what they decide to do with some of the assets. If they decide they want to sell some of Fox's regional sports networks, which would not only help raise cash but also would reduce some regulatory friction, then they would presumably be able to go a little bit higher with the expectation that they'd be delevering quickly after that.
Disney now.
All right, so basically they made an agreement with Disney unless Comcast makes a ridiculous deal. That's what I heard.
That's what I got from that too.
Oh man, it's been a crazy week, hasn't it?
Way too crazy.
Crazy stuff.
So, are you ready to see Wolverine in the MCU?
Hell yes.
But it's not going to be Hugh Jackman.
Hell no.
Hugh Jackman's getting too old, bro. It's got to be somebody
I
new.
know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It's just
Hugh Jackman, I don't know how much I like that bro anyway.
I heard a rumor they originally wanted Danzig, but, you know.
Oh my god. Evil Elvis. I'm waiting for it. I think Ant-Man just came out, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Or I think it's about to. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm not up to date on the movies.
Well, that's pretty much our show, man. That's our high point, our palate cleanser. We don't have a drop this week, so that's pretty much it. I think you can take us out here, boss, if you want to start the music.
All right. Sounds like an idea. Sounds like a thing. Let's get this loaded.
Real quick, a mention. If you guys end up looking into the Jill Davis versus United States or United States versus Jill Davis, viewer discretion be advised. It is early.
I'm going to have to second that. We'll probably get to that next week. But it's time for us to say goodnight. Goodbye. Hope everybody...
Thank you for coming. Sorry you had to see the news with us.
Yeah.
And then we will be back next week.
Definitely, for sure. We will not have another another week off for a while, so it's going to be a good one. Hope everybody is good.
Here.
If you guys hear anything, be sure to let us know. Join us on our Discord. Join us again next week. Join us wherever it is that we happen to be.
You can find the link to the Discord at irc.qclearancearchive.net. There's free tinfoil at the door for that website.
Oh yeah, lots of tinfoil. We got that thing by the roll. It's good.
Yep.
Good, all good.
It's right next to the red pills.
Special thanks going out to Enoch for helping us out with the news blast each week. Every day, actually. Thank you for that. Special thanks to, of course, Solid MAGA, of course. Without you, wouldn't be here. It's all good. Special thanks to Political for all of your wonderful insight. And
shout out Davy Jones for the graphics.
Davy Jones, thank you for the graphics, man. And I guess on that note, everybody, you have a good one.
Keeping me off the streets.
Shout out to everybody in the chats. And on that note, y'all have a good week. Stay safe out there, and buy water.
Yeah, I like that.